Vincent Finelli.
I think I overdid it again. Everyone all set? Cocked? Locked? Here we go. Your dial set correctly to usaprepares.com. We're delighted you're here, and we're broadcasting 2 hours from high atop the Missouri Ozark Mountains. Dr. Richard Allen Miller's with us, and if you'd like to call us, we'll pay for the call. 866-582-9933. 866-582-9933. Please take note of that number, because I'm going to ask a question of Dr. Richard Allen Miller, and I'd like you to consider answering that question as well. And if you'd like to call in with your thoughts and how you would respond, we'd love to hear from you. There's a link to all of your instructors on the website, usaprepares.com. Converging threats are confronted by your instructors daily. I'm Vincent Finelli. Nathan is engineering the broadcast. Welcome, Dr. Richard Allen Miller.
Good morning. Good morning. I have a new website, a second website, besides richardallenmiller.com. I am now at DocRAM.com, and that will take you immediately to Facebook or any of my other sites, including my websites from now on. I'm starting to streamline things, and I just posted just a few minutes ago about a replicator that will do 10 different elements at one moment in a print. That means we're getting closer and closer to Star Trek.
Rick, your website is DocRAM, DocRAM, as in the abbreviation short for Dr. Doc Ram, Richard Allen Miller, DocRAM.com? Yes,
that's correct. Yeah, that is a brand new one that has everything on it, including my GoFundMe, my GoFundMe.com / Richard Allen Miller, has RichardAllenMiller.com, and we'll be taking other kinds of things on as well. So I have reflections going on across the board on Facebook. When I make a post, it'll happen across the board in different sections.
That is great. Okay, so Rick, tell us about this.
Looks like Grace Thorne just arrived with sugar. That's what she does.
So, Rick, when you say sugar, you mean like cane sugar?
Bad with wheat in it, and who knows what else. Yes.
Okay. Just wanted to make sure I understood. So, Rick, tell us about this replicator, please.
Well, the replicator is like what you had advertised about making your own gun with a drill press and so on, where it will print out certain kinds of things. Today, we have a 30-foot replicator up in Washington that will print a geodesic dome, a 30-foot geodesic dome, in 24 hours with cement. It then goes back through and lines the outside of the dome with a different element, usually something reflective like a magnesium oxide or something for radiation shield. However, that is a single print at a time product where it either is pouring cement or it's pouring a barium or aluminum oxide or whatever as a radiation shield. This device does 10 different things at one time and starts to make components with multiple parts at one moment. It's we're making advances so quickly now in that arena that the concept of a replicator is just a few years away. That would probably include things like food.
You're talking about printing food?
And printing energy, printing anything you wanted in your mind's eye. And so that's one of the reasons that I have always said imagination is reality. Once you see something in your mind's eye of how it might be, the technology will follow. It's not that the technology leads us there. It's the other way around. And this is why I am now saying we are creating our own apocalypse and aliens. The aliens are always there, but how they appear and what they are and how they are is all determined by our imagination. This physical world is not really real. What's real is the plane above the physical. This plane has always been referred to as the plane of illusion. It is the place where your mind has been locked into matter. And some false god said that if you come here, anything you can imagine and more will be true. And we bought into that, and you get what you get, including karma. And so here we are at the end of days, and we can make a change in this movie. And the group mind is what determines what's going on and why they try to control the media and the masses. I hope everybody got that message. It all starts inside each of us, and what it is, you really are seeking. That's the responsibility of what we call evolution and going to the next level of awareness. One of the things I'm writing about right now in the non-local mind has to do with feeling the release of specific neurotransmitters in your body. You can identify them. And when dimethyltryptamine goes on, you feel that cold chill going up or down your spine. That is dimethyltryptamine being released. Now, if you know that, and you can, anybody can generate that, that means you now have the ability to start practicing with its control in release and not, so that you can actually play that like a musical instrument to do things. In that case, regenerating nerve tissues is one of the first things Robert O. Becker and I proved back in the 70s using that chill.
You know, Rick, as you describe this, it brings to my mind the question I wanted to ask you and our class, and that is, if you had 60 days before the event, whatever it may be, whether it be a grid down, whether it be a massive food shortage, whether it be a blight, whether it be massive earthquake, volcano eruptions and the plumes that result, whether it be a war, whether it be social unrest, society breaking down, whatever, martial law, whatever it might be. What would you do, Rick, if you had 60 days notice? Now, I want to be very clear. No one has told me, nor have I read, nor have I determined that this is a fact. I'm just saying, hypothetically, if we knew that we had a 60-day warning, what would we do? And that's the question I have for our class as well. So, class, as you listen to our discussion about this, think about what you would do, and maybe you might want to share your thoughts with us. What would you do if you had a 60-day advance notice? Rick, what are your thoughts?
How do they often put it in the movies? What you do is defines who you are. Now, living in the moment is what every saint in history has talked about doing, where you somehow slow this moment down to the point where it has no future and has no past. It is the moment of experiencing it. And that's why a lot of saints have said, reality is that which cannot be known. It can only be experienced. And when you're in that state of mind, now that glass that was half full, that has fallen off the table and broken down there on a piece of glass on the floor, the big question is that glass half fixed or half broken? It's a way of being that allows something to go from the profane into the sacred. And most people do not realize that we work with time, and that is, and space, which is what locks us into a quantum universe of indeterminacy and the idea of the unknown. And so to be able to have the wonder of that is part of what the imagination is truly all about, and is the next stage for seeking a way to change the movie and leave this place and go back home. And while we mostly define that as death, there's something else going on here that each of us has a right to. And I'm seeking those directions for myself, because that 60-day notice, I don't have enough money to bug in or bug out. And if I knew there was a disaster that was about to hit my place, I have no way to move. I don't have any money. I'm a renter. What am I going to do? Well, this is part of what I'm now writing about, called Sustainable Lifeboats Within Gardens of Zen. And those places in the mind have to do with internal landscape and the way you shape, literally, reality. And all of these Bilderbergers and the Clintons and all the things we're going to talk about today, most of that becomes relatively unimportant once you take responsibility for the thoughts you choose to entertain. If everyone in the world did that, this would not be what it is, and there wouldn't be 60 days notice. It wouldn't work like that. It wouldn't need to work like that. Karma is the idea of how your internal landscape of flowing into the next moment. And the past, your past, is truly your primary wave, what you did, not what you do, what you did that defines who you are today. And that's why taking that first step towards sovereignty of the mind, unlocking or untying the knot between the soul and the mind.
What you just heard from Dr. Richard Alan Miller is a clear example of raising the bar. If you listen to mainstream media, they're lowering the bar with their lack of vocabulary and content. Class, Dr. Richard Alan Miller's with us, and I have a quick announcement. Meet up on Monday, and Silent Night will be with us, and he's going to be talking about the underground tunnels in the United States. That's Meet Up on Monday with Silent Night. And Larry Nichols, who was with us for a brief time on Tuesday, he was scheduled to be with us for 2 hours. He became ill and had to discontinue the broadcast with us. Captain John Reagan was with me, and we continued the broadcast. Larry Nichols and I were on the phone last night, and I asked him how he's doing. He was really not doing well on Tuesday during the broadcast, and I asked him how he was feeling, and he said he was sick bad, quote unquote. He was sick, S-I-C-K, bad, B-A-D, and so he was having a really, really rough time. I talked to him last night. He's doing better, and he will be with us on Friday for 2 hours. So Larry Nichols, Friday from 9 to 11 Central Time, right here on USAPrepares.com. Kyle in Montana. Kyle, welcome.
Good morning, Vince. I'm going to answer your question. I would make sure that my relationship with Christ is as close as I can get it, and I do just what I'm doing now. I'm working till I cannot hardly move every single day, getting prepared for what's coming. And the key to this whole thing is not if. People like John Reagan have been telling us this stuff forever, and Dr. Miller's been telling us this stuff is coming forever, and, for a long, long time anyway. And so if people cannot wrap their mind around, kind of like he's talking about just a minute ago, living in the minute and thinking about the minute and seeing what's going on in the minute, if we can't do that yet, to the point to where it motivates us to action, I don't think we're going to. That's my opinion.
Rick?
And I'll go ahead.
No, stay with us for just a second. Rick?
I'm sorry?
Do you have a comment on that, Rick?
Well, no, it's breaking it down, taking the first step toward getting so involved in what you're doing that it becomes sacred. Now, when you know that is when joy occurs. That's your key, where you are you have a chill that goes through your entire body of, I'm doing what I'm supposed to be doing. It will be as clear as a bell. And we keep moving toward that when we do our garden, when we clean the floor, when we're washing dishes, when we're making the bed. These places of the mind will slip in and out of this timelessness, and we're constantly doing that. And the fear of what might happen otherwise is what, in fact, locks us into the future as a secondary wave. It's not real. You can change the future as like a timeline thing, and it all happens at the moment. And if you can get to the moment place, that's where it all happens.
You know, Kyle, you responded almost exactly the same way that I responded. And what happens before this broadcast is a couple minutes before, I'll call Rick and I'll say, Rick, you all set? Just, reconfirming. And I'll mention a few things that I'd like to mention. And I asked him, I said, I'd like to ask you this question. And I said, here's my response. My response is, I would do everything the same I'm doing right now. Exactly. I mean, until I drop.
Changes maybe the way of appreciating that extra little second that you had making the bed or something that allows you to enjoy. Enjoy is a good place. Bliss is a secondary. And then you have the joy, enjoy, the joy. That's how you know what you're supposed to be doing for prepping.
Mm-hmm.
When you are having
Kyle,
fun with it, it's like, where it's part of your enjoyment cycle. Not it's a bunch of work.
The addition to what I said to Rick was that I will work until I drop, except I will stop short of when it becomes dangerous. So, for example, if I'm cutting hay, I will stop before the animals start going to bed, because the rabbits and the birds and the deer go to bed, and I don't want to mow them down. So I'll stop before that happens. I'll stop before it gets dangerous and it becomes dark. I'll stop while we still have light overhead. And we'll be right back. Class, Dr. Richard Allen Miller's with us. His new website is DocRAM.com, DocRAM.com, DocRAM.com. Kyle's with us from Montana. He's joined by telephone. And the question I asked is, if you had a 60-day notice, what would you do? And Kyle, I wanted to share this with you. So, over the weekend, I'm working until I drop as well, preparing for everything. And one of the things that I wanted to get done over the weekend was wire all of the solar panels with this 10-gauge stranded wire, as you recommended. Each solar panel wiring it with 10-gauge wire. And we were running out of time, and it was getting dark, and our son said, well, let's just continue, because it's a great time to do it, because the solar panels are not generating electricity where no one's going to get shocked while we do it. And I said, no, I don't want to do it now, because, at night, you can't really see as well. Using a backhoe inside the barn is not something I like to do anyway, let alone do it at night, when it's dimly lit. I certainly don't want to do it. So I'm doing the same kinds of things that you are, Kyle. I am working until I drop, until I feel it's not safe to continue, which means safety for the animals, nature out there, the deer, the birds in the fields, and, all those animals that want to go to bed in the grass that I'm cutting. And, it used to be their home, and I want to make sure that they find a new home before it gets dark, and I don't want to run them over. So I'm doing the same thing, I believe, Kyle. Is that where you are?
Yep, pretty much, Vince. In the last 30 days, and people want to, and I'm dealing with, as you know, a very debilitating disease. So I deal with an incredible amount of pain. But in the last 30 days, we put in a basement with a cellar, we put a mobile home on top of it, decks, dug in 200 foot of electric line, over 120 foot of water line, poured slabs for chicken coop. I've been collecting concrete blocks as fast as I can because next year I want to build, this next spring I'm going to put up the concrete block above ground garden with two different types of visqueen, one over the actual beds and one completely over everything. We have put up a shop with a concrete floor. It's just a matter of continuing to go and go and go and go. People have to think in terms of use the resources that you've got, and literally I'm going to be broke when I get done. But it's kind of like, I remember something Dr. Miller said a long time ago. He said, he was talking about learning, and I've been teaching my kids this their whole life, but I never was able to put it in quite those kind of words, that a person's ability to adapt to their new reality determines their survival more than anything else. And I think that's absolutely true.
That's what IQ is. The ability to survival coefficient. That's what IQ is actually about, is your survival coefficient. That's what they're actually measuring, is your ability to adapt to something new. The wonder aspect of that is where the joy is found. Not knowing how it's all going to play, just doing it in the process of taking that first step.
Kyle, I think what I'll do is I'll call Len Pence and schedule him to be on the air with us. He is our gardeningrevolution.com instructor, and he has this great formula for the amount of blocks, spacing of the blocks, and we built our raised bed gardens according to his specifications. So we have 4 feet in between the blocks, and the idea is you can sit on the concrete blocks and you can reach into the garden. So if you sit on one side, you can reach halfway in. If you sit on the other side, you can reach halfway in. There's no bending over, and it really makes it a lot easier. And when I was talking to Miles a couple of days ago, Miles in Europe, I asked him about his garden, and his results were so much better than ours. And I said, so how are your tomatoes? And he said, oh, it was great. Everything worked out really well for him. And I was thinking, our tomatoes didn't do so well. And he said, and of course they're covered with plastic, or they're covered, they're indoor. It's an indoor garden, meaning there's a covering over it, which is what you're talking about. So the difference is his garden was completely covered, and we didn't put the hoops up yet. We thought we could try one more year without hoops and plastic over it. And the answer is, I don't think so. I think we have to cover our gardens. So, hey, Kyle, I really appreciate your call. Anything else you'd like to share?
No, I just remembered that it was 64 blocks, and I've got enough now for that 16 to make a 4 foot by 16 foot bed. Mm-hmm. And I think I've got enough collecting when people are just getting rid of these things for pennies on the dollar for what you have to pay for them brand new. Right. I've got enough for 4 beds right now. And so, people just need to think, live in the moment, see what's happening around you and adapt and do something. That's right. The key. You've got to do something. And if what you see does not motivate you to do something, then what you see is actually not affecting your brain. That's my opinion. But I'll let somebody else call. And thanks, Vince. It's a great program.
Thank you so much for being with us, Kyle, in Montana.
You bet.
Kyle's a USAprepares.com instructor. And we've got John in Virginia. John, welcome.
Yes. I was calling concerning gluten and oats. I bought some oats without gluten in it. Should I continue to eat it?
Rick, what are your thoughts?
How did they put it in the commercial? It's the right thing to do. Get a grip. Yes, everything is being affected. We have some new greens that you might want to explore to see how they climatize in your area called quinoa that has not yet been altered. If you're going to do some greens, oats would be possibly the safest of everything at this moment. But again, none of the grains that are currently used in the world, they've all been modified. They've all been changed. And while some of that is for the good, there is a massive unknown in terms of how that's going to affect the rest of the biosphere. And when we start playing God, where we're altering genes in foodstuffs and animals, and like fish, I'm not sure, but that what is available is done for a reason. There are reasons why we have insects. There are reasons why we have weeds. Weeds are plants out of place, and most weed books in each state is because they're the kinds of crops cattle won't eat. The whole thing about what defines something as a weed has to do with cattle. So everything has a purpose at some level of interface. And that's why you have soil organisms that are good, bad, and ugly. There's a reason for creating a habitat that has comets and other kinds of things going through the solar system.
Well,
John, just to share some more thoughts with you, Mrs. Finelli and I went to Aldi. It's my favorite supermarket, if you will, and it's owned by a German family, and it's the only company that Walmart is concerned about as a competitor, ALDI. And I like their oatmeal, their old-fashioned oatmeal, and I just bought another case of it just to top off. I eat oatmeal every day for breakfast, a great big bowl of oatmeal with just a small amount of raisins in it, and I like it a little bit soupy, not watery, but I don't like it like a rock either. But and I think that it's great, and Dr. Shealy agrees. So you have Dr. Richard Allen Miller and Dr. Shealy, and I've been doing it for probably all my life.
And I've also taken the product of Dr. Wallace's product as well.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And I've been listening to the program, and I've learned so much from the doctors on that program, and it's just almost mind-boggling to realize how much the MDs have hoodwinked our minds and brainwashed us.
John, I'll tell you what. Over the last few days, I have looked at a few websites that have actresses and actors on them, and images of them. And what I've noticed is that they are repackaging these women to make them look better than they really look. And every once in a while, there'll be a sneak photo of what these women, these actresses, look like when they are not all airbrushed and not all made up. And I'll tell you what, they are aging faster than the rest of us, in my opinion, many of them. And something is really, really wrong with that. And if you look at Obama, his hair is turned white.
Every single president that happens to because of the stress. I can't imagine what consciousness would want to be leader of the world. That's crazy.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So if you look at his hair, if you look at Nixon, if you look at any of them that has been there 8 years, it has taken a tremendous toll. George W. Bush, it's really aged every one of them. And maybe it's because of the deception that they're involved in, the deception of, what is really happening versus what we're being told is happening. The inside information that some of them may have versus what the news is telling us is happening. Two different things.
Right.
John, thank you so much for the call.
You're welcome.
Let's see. We've got Mike in Tennessee. I guess that's Mike Parsons. Is that Mike Parsons?
This is Mike.
Hey, Mike.
Good morning, gentlemen.
Hey, Mike. I just wanted to say I was doing some tractor therapy yesterday and the day before. I was cutting hay, and we need to hold you through this break, of course. But I wanted to tell you, I was thinking about you while I was going round and round in circles, cutting hay, and the brilliant take that you have on world events and events in this country. How insightful you are. And you're a great asset to USAPrepares.com. I wanted to say that publicly, and please hold through the break, and we'll get to your questions and comments. Dr. Richard Allen Miller's with us. DocRAM.com, DocRAM.com. Mike Parsons in Tennessee is with us. Mike, please continue.
Good morning, gentlemen. What I wanted to point out to some people is a little bit of a philosophy that you realize an IQ is an intelligence quotient. It's your ability to determine inconsistencies and to see things that are not compatible relationships, as it were. What is not fitting in this picture? What is the odd thing? Forward-looking infrared looks for heat signatures, and from the air they can spot a heat signature which stands out. And if you don't want to be detected, you have to blend in. Okay. So in a boxing ring, they tend to win when their opponent is expecting the right jab, but you throw some different combination that they're not expecting. So being a creature of habit, as we are, they expect certain things out of us. When you do the unexpected, they don't expect that, then their training is for a certain reaction from the public. And when you don't react, when you do something different, that throws them off. That being said, is that in your preparation, in your 60 days, there's so many distractions right now, and those people that tend to sit in front of the TV and that get sucked into these distractions on a daily basis, they're going to be sitting on the couch. They're going to be an easy target, no big deal. Those people that perceive or present themselves to be vulnerable, meaning that the outward expression is that, well, I don't have any resources, I don't have this, I'm dependent, so forth, they would appear to be an easy target. The art of stealth is to not be seen. And when you can present yourself in such a way that there's an expectation, and then in reality, there's a totally different reality, you've changed your channel from their perspective, and so that you're not where they expect you to be, or you're more prepared than what they expect you to be. I would say those people that if you consider that if you're not where you need to be, 60 days probably won't have a lot of benefit for you. You might want to align yourself, because those people that are prepared, they're only going to take into their collective those people that can be an asset. In the event of a catastrophic situation, it's all about survival. And in order for you to survive, and I'm traveling right now, so I don't have a script to go by, but as this saying from, what's the movie, Outlaw Josie Wales, when things look bad and doesn't look like you're going to make it, you got to get mean, plumb mad dog mean, because in the end, if you give up, you neither win nor live, and that's just the way it is.
It's called the spell of invisibility in the old books. To understand what they're looking at and fall inside those error bars. Speed, for example, for cops. That's the first thing they're looking for, is aberrant driving, and they start with speed.
Well, right now you've got, I sent you an email this morning, Vincent, the America 3.0, and an informational blurb from a news channel about Judge Joe Brown, who basically came out and exposed that the court, he was a retired judge, a TV judge, Joe Brown, in Memphis. He went before a court, General Sessions, a juvenile court, and basically told the guy, what's your jurisdiction, what's your authority? And the judge found him in contempt. He was exposing the court for a lack of jurisdiction. And therein is the illusion that people walk into these courts, they perceive the courts have jurisdiction, and they suffer because of lack of knowledge. Well, he was challenging the court's authority. The court gave him 5 days for contempt of court for challenging the court's jurisdiction. It's all an illusion, folks. If you go along with their illusion, you're part of the game. Step out of the illusion. Step out of the boat.
Mike, you're absolutely right. As a matter of fact, we don't even know how many government agencies there are because of usurping alleged authority. These agencies are just stepping up, acting like they have the authority. So we don't even know how many government agencies there are. Mike Parsons, thanks so much for being with us this hour. Coming up next hour, Dr. Richard Allen Miller and I will be talking about science. We'll be talking about dysfunctional families. We'll be talking about McDonald's and so much more. Please don't touch that dial. Everyone all set, cocked, locked? Here we go. Hour number 2 of USAPrepares.com. Dr. Richard Allen Miller's with us. His website, DocRAM.com. DocRAM.com. Easy to remember. Doc as in doctor, Ram as in Richard Allen Miller.com. Rick, I've got an announcement here. Sara Lee and Nature's Harvest bread is being recalled over potential glass fragments from a broken light bulb. And it says here and I've posted this on our website. This is from the Daily Mail. It says Bimbo Bakeries, B-I-M-B-O. I'm not making this up. Bimbo Bakeries is recalling about 48,000 packages of bread. 3 Consumer Reports have said that glass is on the outside of the bread, meaning the bread wrappers, and you can bring it back to the store for a full refund. That's Sara Lee and Nature's Harvest. Now, here's the thing. So a light bulb breaks. Customers complain that there's glass on the bread packaging. How is it possible that no one seemed to understand or see that at the factory? How is it possible that a light bulb could break? Now, when I think of a factory, I don't think of little tiny light bulbs. What comes to my mind is these long fluorescent tubes. Now, if that's the case and a fluorescent tube breaks, it would shatter in a lot of pieces, millions of little pieces. And if that's the case, I can understand how it could get onto the packaging, or maybe it was overhead on one of these conveyor belts. This is all my conjecture. I really don't know for sure. But what states are potentially affected? Well, according to the website, Virginia, Georgia, North Carolina, South Carolina, Florida, Alabama. Let's see, I'm reading through the list. Kentucky, Mississippi, Tennessee, West Virginia. So those are the states that are involved. What is the product? Sara Lee, honey wheat, Nature's Harvest, and let's see. Here's a telephone number if you'd like to call, 800-984-0989, 800-984-0989. That's if you'd like to call them and find out if the bread that you have is affected. Rick, can you imagine that a light bulb breaking and the product goes out on the store shelves? And I'm wondering, is it deliberate?
Of mass production in our food system that needs to be revisioned, and why buying local and buying just next door neighbors from their chickens and eggs and things of that nature. It's having food sent to us from other parts of the world that I can't even pronounce the name of the country is kind of creepy. And it is part of the entire problem that we're facing. However, before I even get into this, there is something I started last week with you, and I'd like to reiterate the fact that the Democratic Party is setting up what I would call a fait accompli of our elections for president. Now, Hillary Clinton should have been our president a couple of terms back, according to my resources, and for whatever reason, she's now running this year as for 2016. And the problem is, I just posted a major interview with a Supreme Court judge, old man, talking about Bill Clinton and Arkansas as one of the worst criminals in history out of Arkansas. And now his wife, his ex-wife, wife, whatever she is, that's the creepy part of it. You don't know because of Monica Lewinsky and how that all plays with that. But I remember a time when our presidency represented our most scholarful and best moral values for the country. And it was important that we didn't have Donald Duck or Donald Trump's running with Jesse Ventura's and that kind of thing as our option of choice. And if Hillary, and it will be a fait accompli, because that's what the whole thing is designed for right now and why the Republican Party is going limp, basically what you're going to say is that she will then appoint her husband as head of the United Nations, and now you will have probably the most powerful couple in the world working for the Bushes, running the world. This is unacceptable. I have not seen any candidate by any party, including independent parties, that are offering up candidates like the Dulles brothers or the two brothers that used to be about statesmen. Politics today is not what it was 40 years ago. And what is happening today is absolutely wrong, and I would encourage everyone to vote for Donald Duck. And that is what I'm going to do when I go to the polls. I'll vote for the different referendums and things that I believe in, but in terms of who they are offering for President of the United States, this is a joke. And everybody needs to know that they're not being given a choice. There is no choice anymore. It is a fait accompli. It is already settled. If they don't work it this way, they'll work it that way with gerrymandering or, polls where they convince you that voting for this is best because that other will happen otherwise kind of thing. And the thing is, there is no choice anymore. This is crazy making. And I needed to say that.
Rick, I know a politician in Missouri, a very high-ranking guy. I don't want anyone to think that I like him because that's not the case. But he once told me that when a Democrat candidate would be on a talk show, they would arrange to have one of their minions call. So this would be a Republican calling the talk show, let's say the morning program in a city. So the Democrat candidate would be on the air being interviewed by the morning guy. And they would take some calls, and this staged call would come in from the Republicans. And the call would go something like this. Well, I really like what you've been saying, and you really make a lot of sense. The things that you're saying are really good. I just have this one question. Are those pedophilia charges still pending against you?
Yeah, that's how they do it.
And there is absolutely no way to recover from that. No way. And so Mary's at the hairdresser saying, "Did you know that so-and-so is involved in pedophilia? I'd never vote for that guy." And then the word travels like wildfire. And the guy has not been charged. He's not committed any crimes. He hasn't done it. It was just a tactic from the political machine to destroy people. And Larry Nichols was in the Clinton campaign many times. He's one of our instructors. He's on the air with us every Tuesday. And he does 2 hours. And he's been exposing exactly these kind of ruthless, disgusting tactics. And he said that they would bias people through what would be an alleged poll. And they would call someone up and say, okay, now would you vote for this person? And I'm just making this part up. Would you vote for this person knowing that he's a pedophile? And then that, that kind of a illusion of a poll would destroy the opposition's ability to win an election. So that's the kind of stuff that goes on in politics. And I believe, when you talk about Donald Trump, the reason I believe that he is rising in popularity is just about every single one of us is sick of the dynasties, sick of hearing about the Clintons. We don't want the Clintons anymore. We know about their drug running. We know about the Arkancides. We know about Vince Foster. We know about the lies and the cheating and the deception. We know about the broken lamps in the White House and, Hillary and Bill having fights and him walking in on her and, when she's with another person. I won't go any farther on that. But that's the kind of stuff we're just sick of. And we'd really like to have a statesman. We'd really like to have someone who can articulate rather than yell at us.
Well,
we'd
that's
really
what
like
Donald
someone.
Trump does is he yells. And so there you are with our America's finest and most scholarful. And if you don't believe that, what is Bill Clinton really about? And what did he really do during his presidency with China? I have to tell you, we're being sold down the river that none of these people give a darn about any of us. We are in the way, and they are doing everything. And when I say they, the New World Order, there's your United Nations. All the chemtrails and geoengineering from the United States, most all of that's coming out of Canada. That's a UN project. It has nothing to do with America. And yet, it is killing your plants and your tomatoes that aren't doing well because they're exposed to the aluminum and barium oxide and other creepy things that are in geoengineering and our atmosphere now. And if you don't think that they haven't tried to hijack our water, and now they're doing our air, where at some point in the future, you may have to pay for the air you breathe being clean. That is exactly what Planet Battlefield Earth was about with L. Ron Hubbard. And when I tell you this, Hubbard came through the same order I am, OTO. And what we're talking about here is that there is within all government agencies a magical order, a creepy, magical skull and bones.
DocRAM's with us, DocRAM.com, Dr. Richard Allen Miller. When we come back, I'm going to share with you about a kidnapping. I like this story that we're going to talk about with Dr. Richard Allen Miller. So, the Chinese have been rocked by the market collapse, right? Well, some unhappy investors decided that, things weren't going as quickly as they thought they should, and they decided to improve the situation. So what they did was they kidnapped the founder of the metals exchange at a Shanghai hotel. Yeah, they kidnapped him and they threw him into a car and dumped him off at the police station. That kind of response is the kind of response I think that gets action. So what we do here in the United States is we'll go to Washington and, we'll march around and we'll get rained on and we'll get laughed at. I'm not talking about me. I'm talking about us collectively. And we'll get laughed at by these thugs in Washington. Yeah, we get laughed at, and the results are negligible at best. However, I think that if we were to go visit the homes of these representatives, alleged representatives, and, knock on their door and say, hey, it's me. Remember me? Well, maybe you don't, but I voted for you. And you're not doing the right thing. I just want to let you know. By the way, those are my friends out there in the buses. Yeah. And we're having trouble getting around the block because there's so many of us. But we just wanted to say hi. And, come on in, guys. Come on over. We just want to say hi. I think that would have a dramatic effect. Yeah, I do. But this kidnapping in at the Shanghai hotel, I think, is is getting the message across that we, the villagers, have absolutely had it. So, Rick, here's a story. Our daughter did something that I wasn't really excited about, but, she went to McDonald's. She had an appointment, and she was about 45 minutes early. So she decided that she would get get some tea and a biscuit. So she went through the drive-thru, and she looked at the prices on the marquee. She goes to the window, picks up her items, her 2 items, and she finds out that she was way overcharged. So she did what most people would not do. She pulled around and went into the restaurant and asked for the manager and said, hey, I was overcharged. And the manager explained to her, yeah, well, the marquee isn't updated as much as it should be. So, yeah, there's a difference between what we say we're going to charge you and what we end up charging you. And he said, well, I'll give you a refund of the difference. And she said, no, you'll give me a full refund. So she got her full refund. And this happened to her again at a different McDonald's. Now, I don't know what she's doing at McDonald's, but I hope this is a lesson for everybody. So she calls McDonald's corporate headquarters, and they're going to call her back. Right. They haven't called her back. And this is going on for quite a while now. So I don't think they have any intention of calling her back. But here's the point. Steve Angle called yesterday. I'd like to get your take on this, Rick. So Steve Angle, one of our USA Prepares instructors, he's been to the farm, he's been to the expos. I know him. He's the guy that got beat up in his own home by the Hays City cops in Kansas. And he's facing 20 years in prison as a result of him answering the door and then beating him up. Anyway, so Steve Angle said, this is a problem. Here's why it's a problem. Because there's, let's say, 1,000 people who have been to there through the drive-thru have been ripped off already. There's probably 1,000 more who are going to be ripped off, after our daughter went to see the manager. And the employees, those young people who are learning how things work, how they look up to their managers, who obviously are somewhat successful. They wouldn't be managers, right? So they look at the actions of the manager. And they say, well, this must be the right thing to do. What you do is you post one price, you charge a higher price, you rip off the customers, and that's how you get ahead. I didn't realize that. What a great way to go. So here we have the brainwashing of young people by this manager who is either too lazy, too ignorant of the facts, or too greedy to do the right thing. So what do? Rick, your thoughts?
Yeah, that's teaching your children well. That's what all the kids...
That took us right into the break on that short rant. Jeez. Sorry about that, Rick. I'll tell you what, when we come back, let's get Rick's opinion on what he would do. And there are things we can do. Now, I'll tell you, one of the things that I did. That's pretty neat. We'll be right back. So what we're looking at is the science involved in the decline of our culture, right here with DocRAM, Dr. Richard Allen Miller, DocRAM.com. So, Rick, I was describing the situation in McDonald's where our daughter went through 2 drive-thrus, 2 separate McDonald's, and she was overcharged, and she feels that this is not a coincidence. She thinks that some of this is by design, and the store manager says of McDonald's that she went to says, oh yeah, we don't keep the marquee up to date. So obviously there's deception involved, meaning show one price and charge another. Well, Rick, what do you think we could do about that?
I don't eat at McDonald's anymore. In fact, I have stopped eating at all fast food restaurants. In fact, the small ones, Carl's Jr., whatever. Why? Well, it doesn't matter the size of the fast food. All that food is coming from one source. And it's not good a source. It's not local. None of your fast food, even the local guys, Wendy's, whatever, none of them are buying Nature's Harvest light bulbs. It's mass produced. And right out of the top, you get the karma of buying your drugs from a mafia cartel. And what you're really doing is not buying drugs, you're supporting a type of business and infrastructure. You're participating in something you actually don't really believe in. And it's time to start taking steps. I'm still not perfect. I won't do fast food, but sometimes I will, like Subway, and that's a compromise that is wrong, and I don't have any other choices. That's what they've offered up in my community. If I lived up in Chickaloon and northern part of Alaska, I'm certain that that would be eliminated. I remember old towns in the Midwest that didn't have fast food. They had Frosties and Zippo and, the local single store mom and pops. And even they now will buy from Cormark or other kinds of distributors that are distributing across the country their paperware, their cups and things, the coffee, like Starbucks. The story of how Starbucks got big overnight is an interesting concept. And I'm just going to say that the less you use these forms of systems, the less they're going to happen, just like Walmart. And remember I told you, when you see Walmart starting to close their doors, and guess what? They are now closing their doors, and guess what else? China's yen went up 1.9%, and if you don't think that that country is in a world of hurt, I'm not kidding on what's happening next. And what you do not want is the usual suspects getting into office, Clintons or whatever, because the whole thing is about selling the United States down the river as a third world country now. There is no gross national product. There is no pride. I remember a time 25 years ago when American agriculture was the best buy there was. We don't even have Best Buy anymore. We have cheapest. And you have 5 to 7 manufacturers that are getting all their meat from one source. And if you don't like that, try the movie Samsora and Google up the chicken scene for harvest and realize that all the chicken that you're eating out of Safeway or whatever has come from a farm like that. And imagine that nutrition in all that you eat becomes you. That's a good metaphor.
Rick, we've heard stories about raising chickens in Mexico where they take roofing nails and they nail the chicken's feet to a board so the chickens can't move. They can't waste that energy on moving. Just grow fat and lay eggs. And that's all they have to do. It's absolutely disgusting. So, Rick, let me share with you.
Back ribs, and imagine what that small calf went through to become your food on the table. You're eating that. That is what you are becoming. Realize that every single thing that you do is influencing what your future as a secondary wave is about. I remember wildcrafting my food on my way to work. I would go into everybody's yard and find edible things that I would come to work with. Today I can't even do that because of everybody using insecticides on their lawns. But that was a time back in the 50s and the 60s when you could pick your food out of your garden. Why we have lawns and French poofy gardens is creepy. It's, that there's no such thing. What's the grass good for? If you're going to have a yard, why not have it with it, growing native plants that are your medicines, your foods, and you don't even need to till them. I mean, you can let them be wild, and that will allow you to climatize toward the environment you're currently enjoying. How's your environment today, by the way? How's your weather? What's going on in your... We're in triple digits, by the way, still.
Rick, here's what's happening right here. We have planes flying directly overhead. I mean, when I say directly overhead, it's like they're aiming right at our farm. for geoengineering. They're spraying right over the farm, right over our farmhouse.
What do you think's falling on your land? What do you think's going inside your cow that will eventually become someone's meal?
All right, let's talk about that. So we have these propeller airplanes flying over our house, not over the farm, over our house. We have helicopters flying over our house. It's not just us. Some of our other instructors have said the same thing. And so that's one thing that's happening. We had 4 cows that have died, 2 cows, 2 calves, and 20 down the road, exactly 20 down the road from us, another farmer. And I talked to Miles in Europe, and he said this week that he's gotten the data. He's talked to the veterinarians in the village where he lives in Europe, and they've had 134 calves die in 2 months. That's an extreme number.
So there's your 2 months or your 60 days notice that you were talking about at the beginning of this show. There it is, everybody. And while it's 2 weeks, 2 months, or 2 years, it doesn't matter. What matters is the mindset of you noticing and now starting to take steps toward something different.
Okay, let me tell you what else I've noticed. You know, when I cut hay, I am really, really careful. I don't want to run over turtles. I don't want to run over frogs. I don't want to run over small deer. I don't want to run over wild turkeys nesting. And here's what I saw. In the last 2 days, yesterday and the day before, I've been cutting hay, and Mrs. Finelli has been tedding. So we're using 2 tractors, and she gives me a head start to cut. And as soon as I get a field almost cut, she comes out and teds it, which scatters the grass in a random way, so it'll dry faster. And right after the broadcast, we're going to bale. Well, here's what I saw. I saw the absence of wild turkey nests in a field that has had them every single year. A field that has had turkey nests in the same spot or very close to the same spot every year. Not there. I saw a dead deer in another field where I've never seen a dead deer. As a matter of fact, in 10 years, I have never found a dead deer in a field, in the middle of a field, just dead. So those are 2 things that I've seen. I've seen this green algae on our ponds and on our neighbors' ponds, thick as a carpet algae. I've seen red algae in puddles that are in our driveway and in our neighbor's driveway. So I've seen all these weird things that I've just never seen before. I've seen motor oil that gets darker faster than I've ever seen before. It turns brown faster than it ever has before. And it's not a different motor oil. It's the same motor oil because I bought $1,100 worth of, motor oil all at the same time. So it's not like it's a different lot. It's not like it's different years. It's not like it's a different formulation. It's the same vehicles, the same motor oil. Those are the kinds of things that I'm seeing, Rick, and I'm finding them very disturbing. So I'm not saying that we have a 60-day notice. I'm not saying that. I am saying that I'm doing everything I can as quickly as I can, exactly what Mike Parsons is doing, exactly what Kyle in Montana is doing, and exactly what some of our other instructors are doing. We are all scrambling to make the best use of our time, and none of us has booked flights to Disney or are saying, let's pack the vehicle and let's go to Disney and let's do that bucket list. I don't have a bucket list, Rick. I don't have one.
Well, you're lucky that you at least still can afford one. Me, I have a bucket list, but I figure I'm probably never going to actualize most of it. It's just things that I would like to do. I would like to walk Machu Picchu. I would like to walk Africa. I'd like to walk Ireland. How am I going to do that? Right now, the aircraft flying anywhere in the world now is being exposed to ionizing radiation that is verging on toxic. At some point shortly, flying by aircraft is going to be too hazardous for most people, especially children.
Rick, Norm Shealy has said that he is not traveling anymore like that. Norm Shealy is a worldwide speaker, literally, and he's not traveling anymore to do those kinds of major presentations. I want to share one thing with you very quickly, and this is something we can all do immediately. So I was meeting with Mike Parsons in Tennessee, and John Moore was with me, and we were in my vehicle, and we were coming back to Missouri. And so we were getting something to drink, and I was going to get a cup of coffee because I was driving and operating the vehicle, and he was getting something to drink as well. I'll tell you what happened when we came back. Rick, I'd like to say this very quickly. We've got two callers waiting. I was with John Moore and Mike Parsons, and we were at a Stop and Rob in Tennessee, and I went over to get a cup of coffee at the Taco Bell, and the coffee wasn't ready, and the guy said, we'll have it in a couple minutes. A couple minutes a bit later, he came back. Maybe 10 minutes later, he came back. He said, well, we're still working on it. Finally said, well, we can't do it. He said, okay. I said, are you just going to refund my money? He goes, yeah. So he says he refunded my money on the credit card, and I said, great. He didn't do it. So I asked Mrs. Finelli to call our bank, and we charged them back. We literally charged them back for 81 cents. Now, why did we do that? Because all you have to do is make one phone call, and you get your money back. And what happens is Taco Bell got hit for a $25 chargeback as a result of their inattention, their deception, their greed. Now, if we do that to McDonald's and all these other fast food joints who rip us off, as our daughter was telling us, and we just call our bank and say, you know, we paid by a credit card, here's what they did, you'll instantly get your money credited to you. And they'll get hit with a $25 fee. And pretty soon the manager's going to say, what are you bozos doing? You're getting us these 25. There's like $225 chargebacks. We can't do this. And they'll knock it off. So that's how you fix this. Rick, can you tell us very quickly how to grow comfrey? Joey would like to know. And then we've got two calls.
Comfrey is almost impossible not to be able to do it. The only thing I've ever seen take comfrey out are hogs or no water. That's a fact. Okay. And that sapwood goes down 18 feet by the third year, which means it's going into bedrock and making topsoil, which means I used a Quaker Quill number 8 cultivar. That's the one I like best. That seems to grow as a rhizome, and if you cut it before it goes to 10% flower, just like alfalfa, you will have the high protein levels, and the root, which has pyrrolizine alkaloids in it, will not get up into the leaf. And that's the way you grow comfrey. It's simple. You can't not do it. I'll send Joey a little monograph I have that is on herbfarminfo.com. I have 360 PDFs now ready to go to press on how to grow various crops, including comfrey. Comfrey is the highest biomass yielder in the world that I've found. I haven't found anything that creates more biomass yield. 100,000 ton of glop. I mean, you know, we did a 100-acre field, and handling that is a bitch because it is so cumbersome. And you can't do a field dry on that because of indole alkaloids. The thing will rot in the field. What you can do is put a major crimp and do a partial wilt, and then you take it in for air drying. We even tried to do pelletizers and cubers, and it won't work. It'll rot from the inside out. You have to put a serious dry on it down to about 20% before you can run it through a cuber.
Okay. Susan in Arkansas, you're on. We've got to go very quickly.
Hi. First, I have a question for Dr. Right.
Go quickly, please.
Dr. Miller. But it would require a bit of... I do have his phone number, and I was going to ask him if I could call him off the air.
Can Susan call you off the air, Rick?
Yeah, she'd be. You can give her my phone number. That's fine. I can't even hear what she's saying right now.
Okay, Susan, you're good.
Her, so I'd be happy to work with her directly.
There you go. Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Susan. Jack, you're on with Dr. Richard Allen Miller. We only have a minute left.
Okay, Vincent, this is Jack. I wanted to tell you about the helicopters and airplanes flying over. They have your number. 7-8 years ago, I was writing a lot to the newspaper and on Alex Jones and on the Power Hour, and I got visited by 2 black helicopters. And I sort of curtailed my writing and then calling, and they left me alone.
Well, that's great. So all I have to do is just not go on the radio. That's easy to fix.
That's the only they're going to stop.
Well, that's real easy. So, hey, Rick, we're on vacation.
Well, what do you mean we right, man?
That's why you're getting targeted. That's why you're getting targeted.
Hey, Jack, thank you so much for calling. Dr. Richard Allen Miller is with DocRAM.com. Above all, honesty and integrity. By now, you know that USAPrepares.com is your source for water filtration systems. Here at the farm, we use our water filtration system for drinking, cooking, and for our cats and dogs. Which brand are we using? Well, that would be the ProPure system, because it filters out pathogens, microbes, chlorine, and fluoride. Multiple sources indicate that fluoride is responsible for lowering our IQs by 5%. Now, how many of you would like to sign up for a lower IQ? USAPrepares.com offers ProPure water filtration systems and accessories at the same price as everyone else, except we offer an instant rebate. We buy them by the pallet loads and pass the savings on to you. And if you're outside of Missouri, there's no sales tax. And if this appeals to you, visit USAPrepares.com. That's USAPrepares.com. You can order online, and we have the ProPure water filtration systems in stock, ready to ship. USAPrepares.com. ProPure water filtration systems at the same price as everyone else, except we offer an instant rebate.